Hey everybody, so glad to have you join us again for another edition of the Hour of Power. This is the Revival of Justice, and this is the 11th week of our Revival series here at New St. Paul. My name is RJ Stevenson. I happen to have the fine privilege of being a pastor here at New St. Paul AME Church here in Tampa, Florida. And today you've joined us for our Hour of Power presentation. The Hour of Power is normally where we'll have a moment to jump into some Bible teaching. And the theme lately has been justice based on our social culture. We're pushing this movie called Justice on Trial. So today is a very, very, very special edition. And I want you to go ahead and make sure you're sharing the presentation out. Make sure you're letting everybody know to log on and watch with us today, because we have some very dynamic and impactful guests. And I'm excited about the experience today. Let's take a moment for prayer. Father, we thank you for everything that you're doing in our midst. We thank you for always being faithful to us. We appreciate you for already making ways for us for this wonderful day that you've made. Hey, be good to us, God. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Listen, I got some great guests, and I'm looking forward to bringing them on. I hope y'all ready, because this is going to be probably one of the most impactful hour of powers that we're gonna have. Today we're talking about this movie. We're talking about this movie called Justice on Trial. We've been talking about this movie for a couple of days now, and you know, God has blessed us with the opportunity to be a part of history, to be a part of launching this movie, and I'm excited about that. Today we have the writer, producers, and some other folks who are gonna give us some perspective on this movie. The first person I'll pull up is the writer of the movie, and I'll let him introduce our special guest for today. Everybody, this is Dr. Chad Lawson Cooper. He is the writer and producer of the movie, and I'm absolutely excited about having him on with us today. Dr. Cooper, how you doing there? Can't hear you. I don't have any audio for you. Still can't hear you. Think you're muted on your end, sir. In addition to Dr. Cooper, we have some other individuals I'm gonna bring on. We have Todd Bridges. How you doing there, sir?
I'm doing really good. How you doing today?
Doing great, doing great. This is critically acclaimed Todd Bridges. Y'all remember from Different Strokes. My goodness, he plays a part in the movie today, and I don't want to spoil it. We also have Bishop Rudolph McKissick.
Hey, sir, how are you?
Thank you for joining us. Doing great. Thank you for joining us. And I think we got Dr. Lawson back on. Dr. Lawson, we got audio this time?
Nope.
I still can't hear you,
sir. Dr. Lawson does not know how to work computers or phones, I guess.
We gotta get the mic right, Dr.
That brother needs some help by the Lord right now. Lord, please help him learn how to work the computer things, phones and things and technology.
I need Dr. Cooper. I need to get him to get his mic right. Well, we're talking about this movie, Justice on Trial. I've had an opportunity to view it. It's an amazing offering. I believe it covers some topics that are key to our social landscape, key to the culture of today. And I'm excited about being a part of being able to be a part of launching this movie because it shares perspectives that are definitely influential in today's time. I'm really hoping to get Pastor Cooper back on really soon because it would just be a disjustice to move forward with his movie without having him on the forefront of the conversation. We've got some other people here waiting on the deck, waiting on the sidelines for us to get started. And I'm hoping that Dr. Cooper can come on really soon. Bishop McKissick, y'all got a lot going on up there in Jacksonville. One of my friends, Norman Harris, Attorney Norman Harris, is up there working on some of you all's trials. Y'all have had a lot in the news lately about jaywalking and young folks in the community getting civil citations for jaywalking. What in the world is going up there in Jacksonville, sir?
Man, I thought we were talking about the movie.
We talk about the movie. We don't talk about justice.
No, man. We've got a lot to fix in our city, in our state. We've got a lot to fix with trust as it relates to our sheriff's office and frivolous charges that have been given out, body cams that won't be shared. And so, we're about that fight, and we're about fixing those things and making it right. And it is, man. It's been crazy. It's been crazy here. Some people don't know how to have proper stewardship of the power that their title gives them.
Yeah.
And in many instances that happens with police.
Yeah, I was trying, something you say that is true because I was trying to explain to one of my police friends that he doesn't know what it's like every day to go driving and you got to be worried whether you're going to be alive or not when you get back home.
Absolutely.
Or when my son goes out, I don't know whether he's going to come back or not. That's a fear that we've had all of our lives in this country.
Right.
And that has got to change. That's got to change. And now, see, they're going through some stuff right now and they don't understand what they're going through. They feel like they're being picked on. But I'm saying, man, we didn't felt this way all of our lives.
Absolutely.
You just now feeling this mess. And we've been feeling it all of our lives. And it's not right.
No.
It's just not right. I should not feel that way in my own country. It's ridiculous.
No.
I want to pull into this conversation also Dr. Robert Wright. Hey, sir, how you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Hey,
You got me reading a whole lot of books. You got me doing a whole lot of Googling lately, and I appreciate you. Tell me how you're thinking about what we're talking about today.
Well, I think that we got to go back to an episode of Little House on the Prairie.
That's right. That is so relevant today. You're right.
Yeah, I was introduced to Brother Todd Bridges then, and I used that segment in my classes, my African American Humanities classes, as a classic example of the relationship between the past and the present.
That's right.
And his statements, his laments, if you would, and the look on the face, after he said what he said.
That's right.
It tells a story that I think is relevant now. And unfortunately, because we're ahistorical, we don't study history until a tragedy occurs.
Yes.
And that's because we're reactionary. When you're reactionary, something got to happen in order to get you out in the street. We always approach this stuff from the position of a crisis and not information we can use to actually change our circumstances.
That's right.
Yeah. So
and right now, a lot of them are feeling right now because they're being attacked by mayors and that kind of stuff now, and they're now seeing how we feel. This happens to us all the time. So now it's just not happening to them, and they don't understand. They want to walk off. They don't want to be. They don't want to be there. They don't want to work there anymore. And I'm like, man, that's how we've been feeling the whole time in this country. We've been feeling the same way from when I was little all the way up to now. to where every day there's something going on, or they're not, we're not being considered Black Americans. I even had people talking about the Ancient Mima picture being taken off, and I'm like, man, that was the company that did that. Why are you blaming us? The company decided to take off that racial discrimination picture. That's what they decided to do. Why are you attacking us for what they're doing? That's not us that's doing it. They made the choice. They made the choice.
Let me tell you why they're doing it. The reason why they're doing it is because, see, if you study the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and they kicked all of the white folks out of SNCC because white folks will take your stuff and co-opt it.
What is it? Do you know that? That's right. Do you know they never paid her? Do you know that?
Yeah, I know.
They never paid her. They lied to her. And then they'd be using that picture forever. And then they, and what they realized is their term was coming next to be exposed. And that's why they decided to do what they did. They had to do. Right. They didn't want to be exposed, because his family sued, her great great grandchildren sued because she never got the money they were promised. And of course, it got dismissed in court because you know why. They got big old lawyers, and Quaker, started to go after that company, and that's why it got dismissed.
Yeah. But see, they'll take your stuff and misdirect it, so we won't gain any kind of momentum from it.
Right. Yep.
So you'll have all of these things that all we want is justice.
Yeah.
And so they'll take your local stuff and make it a national thing to take it out of your hands so they can direct it in a way that they can make money off of it.
That's right.
They can hide their own culpability and further confuse us in organizing to really make some change.
And then guess what? I've been finding out now that the media, the national media, the big networks have been editing these videos to make us look bad. They won't let the truth be shown. And they've been getting busted by, I don't know if you heard of the Turks. The Turks been busting them. Saying, look at this video, it's been edited. Let me show you the real video now. And that's messed up. So if that means that they've been if they got caught doing that now, they've been doing it before.
I want to introduce the conversation, Bishop Leofric Thomas. Bishop, how you doing there, sir?
I'm great, my friend. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Doing great. I want to definitely invite you to the conversation. We're talking about what's going on here in our world, but I want to make sure that we're focusing in on this movie. I was very, very blessed to even be able to see the trailer of the movie before it came out, because what this movie shares is a real live example of some of the conversations that we're having. We've been talking about reparations. We've heard about it on the news. We've seen people come up with their formulas and numbers about why it is the Black community deserves what it deserves. I want to give everybody an opportunity to view this trailer so we can get deeper into the conversation. So right now, I'm going to play on the screen the trailer for Justice on Trial, the movie by Dr. Chad Lawson Cooper. Take a moment to look at this.
Slavery gave America a fear of Black people and taste for violent punishment.
I was beaten, shot.
African Americans are suing the United States government for reparations.
Clearly one eyelash away. Being held in contempt. Do you understand me?
Alicia Robinson Cooper as Harriet Tubman, Chad Cooper II as Emmett Till, Lane Harper as Medgar Evers.
We are asking for $6.4 trillion.
Just get everything cleaned up and get this Negro the hell out of here.
I don't see any reason why we should be given $6 trillion for something that happened 200 years ago.
First of all, it didn't happen 200 years ago. It started 200 years ago.
Unless the government agrees to be sued, it can't be. And guess what? The government does not agree. So case closed. Streaming online July 4th at www.justiceontrialthemovie.com. Also available on Vimeo and Amazon Prime.
All right, there it is. You seen it. We got them back on. Dr. Chad Austin Cooper back with us. Sir, this is one of the most provocative movies that we've seen in a very, very long time. This movie talks about some stuff that a lot of folks really don't want to talk about. What led you to bring this kind of offering to the world, and how do you expect for this to impact where we are right now in today's society?
Well, it stemmed from the killing of Philando Castile in 2016, when I happened to be in the DC area getting ready to do a production, and I walked into Cracker Barrel and happened to see the video of him being shot with his fiance and little girl in the car. And it just changed the whole trajectory of what I do through theater and film. And so that's how it all came about, because I felt a burden to educate our people and also to motivate our people. Because when we see things like systemic racism and blatant lynching or legalized, to some degree, murder of our people, it does something to our self-esteem. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're Black, you are a target many a times. And so when he was murdered, I was like, wow, it's like it made me almost feel helpless. So I think the best way to target this type of racism and to build self-esteem back in the Black community is through arts, through education. And so that's what this film is, a merger of arts and education. You're going to be educated, motivated, all at the same time. And then we hear about all of the bad things that they credit Black folks for doing, but we don't hear about all of the positive things, all of the inventions that not only brought greatness to America, but also brought greatness and functionality to the whole world. There's no mind, to me, at all like the Black mind and Black excellence and Black creativity. And when we really look into the history of life itself, it all started in Africa. That's who we are.
You have assembled a dream team today. I don't even think my computer can handle all the oil that you've brought to the network today. Won't you take a moment and introduce our guests in any order you would like to, so that everybody can understand what value they bring to the conversation?
Absolutely. Well, first we have Todd Bridges, and we all grew up in my age group with Todd, and to be honest with you, I was jealous of him when he was on different strokes, and I wanted to be him.
But see, but you know something? I was the first one talking about all this, and they were calling me a liar.
Right.
You remember that? I talked about it early on, man, and nobody believed me. And you know, I hate to say this, even my own people didn't believe me at one time.
Right, exactly.
No, nobody believed me. It was happening to me every single day, and I kept telling people, and they thought I was full of it. They thought I was causing the trouble.
Exactly.
But go on, Chad.
Well, from roots to justice on trial, Todd has been a staple in the social justice and equality movement. Then we have the great Bishop Rudolph McKissick. One of God's elite generals in the army of the Lord, and just a guy that operates in excellence, who is also a staple within the social justice community, and very, very much a part of Justice on Trial from a producing standpoint as well. So we're honored to have him with his expertise, and he's going to have a lot to say to bring credence to what we're talking about. The one and only Bishop Lee Alfred Thomas, who's been a friend of mine for many, many years, singer par excellent, a man of power and class, and and who gets on the front line, and he'll get out and march and the whole 9 yards. And just a great guy. He's going to bring a wealth of information and excellence as well to this podcast. Dr. Robert White, my brother from another mother, a walking encyclopedia from ASU. I won't hold that against him. But a man that walks in brilliance. And he too is a pastor in the Montgomery, Alabama area, and just a great brother. We have Tamika Edgecombe, that's behind stage, who is long time friend. Her husband is the music director for Mariah Carey in her band, and we have been. Her husband used to be my minister of music. I cried like a baby for 6 months when he left. There was nobody like Dario Edgecombe on the planet. And Tamika's very much involved in social justice and this racial divide that we're experiencing in this country as well. Also, Rick Mason, who is a TV personality from Mississippi. He has a show called Issues, and he too is in the movie as well. And just a great guy. I've been knowing him for years. He deals with racial issues all the time on his TV show, as well as John Gesman, attorney John Gesman, who's a super attorney in Connecticut. It's my dad's best friend, and he's just a brilliant guy. I believe he's going to be one of the breakout stars in this particular movie. He plays Todd's partner in the movie as a civil rights attorney, par excellent. And I believe Paul Gordine too is on the in backstage, and that's my assistant, very efficient, and he too pastors in Montgomery, Alabama, and just a brilliant gentleman. So there you have it. So this platform, I wanted them to be able to talk and express their thoughts on social justice. And let's talk about the movie. And I think you got another clip you can play as well.
Yes, sir.
A scene from the movie, and then you go ahead and do your thing. All right, Dr. RJ.
What we'll do is we'll play this next clip, and following this next clip, we'll jump right into the conversation. Again, we're talking about the movie Justice on Trial. This movie is releasing on the 4th of July. Enjoy this clip. We'll be right back.
Okay, first of all, that lady lied on that little boy. So she's the criminal. Get your facts straight.
Look, we have a criminal justice system that is set up that it does not favor all in this country. I mean, and it still prevails today. You can look back in history, and there are so many incidents and injustice toward African Americans.
Remember Tulsa, Oklahoma? The area of town called Greenwood, where blacks had their own stores and their own shops, their own banks. They even had their own hospitals. I wonder, do they remember that town was destroyed over a lie by one white woman? I mean, people were bombed and shot and set on fire. I wonder, do they remember? Little kids, little children killed, and their dreams all killed for one white woman's lie. I wonder, do they remember? I wonder, do they remember? Yes, indeed.
It says that black lives don't matter. Well, that's easy to say black lives don't matter when you use black lives to harvest your crops, to use manual labor to build your buildings, to work in the coal mines, to work on the railroads. I mean, that's crazy to think that we.
Man, that deliberation chamber got so tight. A lot of interesting conversation going on there. I don't know what it would have been like sitting in that room with everybody, but I can imagine during the filming there was a lot of tension because even though we know that it's a story and people are playing a role, it's very real in today's face portrayal of what is really going on in the midst of us. Let's talk about what it was like writing and talk about the process that you used to gather together the cast of individuals that you used who are in the movie.
Great question. Well, some of the cast, I would say 50% of the cast, are from our off-Broadway play that we ran several times over and over in New York. And then the other half of the cast was brought in by way of a collaboration of myself, Burke Management out of Beverly Hills, California, and Man Robinson out of Atlanta, Georgia. And so I tell this story so often that I'm tired of hearing it myself, but I was getting ready to sing at AME Church in Los Angeles, and I go to sit. I'm sitting down rather, and this real neatly dressed little preppy guy comes by and sits by me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm just not I'm not in the mood for this this stuck up spirit today. So I happened to, during the past the piece, to turn over my phone, and he saw FAMU on the back of my phone, and he said, well, what do you know about that? And I said, well, that's my school. And we got to be best friends from there on. And come to find out, we ended up talking and we found out that we were both in entertainment, and he was a management company that produced movies. And so we ended up talking, and that's how Todd got involved, and Dorian Wilson got involved, and Man Robinson got involved, and we ended up actually filming the first part of this last November, and it was amazing. There's a vast difference between theater and film. To me, film is much harder because you got to keep doing things over and over and over again in different shots and different angles. But I think the cast, the synergy with the cast is amazing. You can see it. You'll be able to see that when you see the film itself. So that process was fun. The jury deliberation, of course, it's real talk. So there may be some real feelings involved when they're acting, because it's real talk. And so the bottom line is they're who they are, and in as a person. And so I think that's what brought the realness aside just from the great acting.
Bishop McKissick, Dr. Cooper has afforded the Black church an opportunity to get involved with pushing this movie. How is it that churches have become involved with pushing the conversation?
Well, I think it's only natural, because if you look at the history of us as a people, the church has always been the centerpiece of our movements. Not the only, but one of the strategic and vital centerpieces of all of the movement of our people throughout our history. Starting first with, African traditional religion that we brought with us. That got messed up, but that's a whole nother story. But the church has always been a part. And so for the church to participate in this, I think it's very vital, and to kind of take the lead in pouring back into something for us, by us, that is not put together by some Hollywood white male dominated production company that sanitizes history and tries to reinterpret it in a way that makes it palatable to their comfort. So for the Black church to be able to participate, and for the movie to be able to pour back even into the Black church is important. Also for the young people that are in the Black church to be able to know our history and how Chad weds together historicity and contemporaneity with some of the heroes and sheroes as
with your bad
witnesses is very important for our young people, not just young people, but all of us as a whole, because most of us don't know our history. We know about our history. So that's important.
What pastors have you gotten involved with pushing this? I understand that, just like the revival movie we did before, pastors and Black churches have changed the game in terms of distribution and promoting movies. What other pastors are influential about pushing this movie?
Well, man, I've been able. You've got Bishop Thomas. We're childhood friends. You got him on here. That's greatly influential. Who actually brought me into the fold through the last movie, Revival. But I've been able to get Pastor John Jenkins, Pastor Freddie Haynes, Pastor Elaine Flake, Pastor Gina Stewart, Bishop Alfred Owens, Pastor Howard John Wesley, Dr. Irisha Hilliard, Dr. Marcus Cosby, Dr. Bishop Kevin Adams. So, you've got an array of major pastoral personalities who have also been intricately involved in social justice. One of my dearest friends is Reverend Al Sharpton. He's looking at ways he can promote it on his shows as well. And so we've got a really great across the board pastoral participation.
Bishop Leofric Thomas, glad to have you on here with us today. Songbird par excellence. Tell us about the work that you've done with Dr. Cooper in touring your national theater and how this is important to you.
Listen, Chad and I go way, way back. Ironically, we kind of like stumbled up on each other years ago. He was promoting Church Mess in Jacksonville and came through our ministry to promote it. His wife, Alicia, was singing a song, and as she was going down the stairs, I hummed a little bit, and he said, no, keep going. And we ended up duetting together. And from that, he pulled me into touring with him on Church Mess across the country. It was phenomenal. My first time actually acting on stage. He pulled my daughter in the same. And so we've done great work together. He does phenomenal, incredible work in all of his plays. All of his productions are done in excellence. And with this movie, it's even greater, if you ask me. I mean, what he's been able to do to merge everything together and go back and forth and just be one of the most genuine guys you could possibly meet in the world. And like Bishop McKissick said, we're drawing in pastors from across the country to participate in this, that it will be be insight to our people, but also a blessing to the ministries, and that we can get this message across. And I pray, and I'm hoping that it would just take the industry and those who watch it by storm, and that this will become something that's phenomenal.
Yes, sir. The Todd Bridges is with us. What did this film mean for you? I mean, from playing, in Different Strokes, and then being in the epic movie Roots. Now you're in Justice on Trial. It looks like you have a long range of being involved in social justice relative movies. What did being a part of this movie mean to you?
Well, being a part of this movie, anytime that you can tell a story that'll help people understand what's going on really in America. And because like I said, I've been talking about this from the very beginning, and everybody thought that it was me, that I was doing something for the police to do what they were doing to me. They thought that I was lying, So, it started out with Little House on the Prairie, where I got to do something to show what was going on. And then I ended up in Roots, and with a lot of shows that were showing what was happening to Black people. And then it was actually happening to me at the same time. So you may have been seeing me on TV, but I was getting pulled over every single day. You know, I was getting guns held in my head by the police department. I was having a hard time understanding that discrimination because I was from San Francisco. So living in San Francisco, I didn't see no discrimination between the cops and the Black Americans. I didn't see any problem between the white people and the Black Americans. I didn't see no problems. And when I moved to Southern California, it all changed. So anytime you get a chance to be in a movie that's going to tell a story for them to understand again what we feel like and what we are going through is a good thing. Because you know, it gets to the point to where you're tired of talking. You tell them so much, they don't believe you. But, you know, unfortunately, I hate to mention this, but they got to see somebody for 8 minutes and 42 seconds die in front of their eyes. And finally, they believe us. It took that much for them to believe that we were telling the truth. So this movie is going to show them, you know, just the things that have happened to us over and over again. Every time that we, you know, become successful or we want to tell the truth, they want to make us disappear because they don't want to hear the truth. They want to hide the truth. They want to act like it doesn't exist. And this movie is a good thing. This movie is showing that it's true and it happens. And you know, and we want what everybody wants. We just want to be Americans. We want fairness. Just treat us right. Treat us like Americans. That's it. I don't want no more. I want to be treated like an American. That's all I want. I don't want to be having to worry about every time I drive my car in fear or worried about when I'm going to get pulled over. You know, it's like I'm always trying to get home before nightfall. And that's a shame that I'm always trying to get home before nightfall because I don't want nothing to go wrong.
He is.
You said that you were trying to get home before nightfall. One person I know knows about that is Dr. Robert White over at ASU. Sir, as it regards to you being the consultant for the movie and your role over at Alabama State, how is this movie important in your context?
Does she hear us?
Dr. Wright. Dr. White.
Dr. Wright can hear us?
I hear you. You good?
Okay, yeah. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, I mean, what it does is it brings to light something that we've been talking about for 40 years. And the classroom is the place where these issues typically have been discussed. But how often are we taught about African and African American history? So it is an opportunity for us to bring the story to another venue and to bring up issues amongst the people who typically might not even consider the conversation. And we have to understand that a lot of the police brutality that's going on now is going on in cities that have mayors that are Black or Democrat, or you have these, and so it's not just a racial thing, but it has to do with decency, and it has to do with an appreciation of culture. And so I'm in it for that reason, because it is an extension of the classroom. It gives people an opportunity to engage in conversations. But how many people, after having watched the movie, are going to actually go out and try to reap change at the local level? You know, how many people are going to gain the courage from this to actually go out and sacrifice oneself? Because I know Mr. Bridges has done that, and others have done that. Where is it going to encourage us to shed our blood? And so that's the ultimate question. So I was fortunate to even be brought on, and my job is to pick him up from the airport, drive him to the hotel, take him to eat, and he let me pay for it a lot of times. So I thank him for that. But at the same time, you're able to see the conversations, the term papers, the dissertations, the presentations. You get to see it on the screen. And so, you know, big ups to him and the efforts that are taken, because we're in the situation we're in because we're ignorant. And we are willfully ignorant in some instances, because this stuff brings up a lot of pain and it brings up a lot of challenges that mentally I don't think we're able to deal with at the moment. So,
Mr. Bridges,
on behalf of the academic world, on behalf of the academic world, we appreciate what Dr. Cooper is doing and hope that we can tell some more stories that are relevant to our experience rather than trying to entertain folks every 5 minutes and get a laugh out of them. You know, let's get some activism and some action out of them.
As it regards to the academic perspective, Todd Bridges said that, you know, we don't want nothing but to be American. We just want a good life. But the movie deals with the concept of reparations. How is that concept of reparations being presented in the academic perspective at the college level?
Oh, well, I mean, it has taken on a totally new vigor because people have been able to co-opt the reparations argument into the argument of the environment. So you now see in the past presidential debates, you actually saw the issue of reparations being discussed. But it wasn't because black people's issues were being addressed. It was because the earth science people, or as I refer to them as the other side of the campus, have used that argument to gain mass emphasis for the environment. So here again, if you don't own a story, other people will take your story
I'm a church boy, and the devil is a liar. That was just messed up. I was ready to hear the rest of that. Miss Edgecombe, how you doing? Tell us what your perspectives are as regards to the movie and how impactful this is for this day and time. Can't hear your audio. All right, we're gonna swing this conversation over to
my mic keeps jumping on it.
Dr. Cooper. When we started talking about reparations, not too long ago, Mr. Bob Johnson got on the news and mentioned a number in terms of what he felt like was a reasonable compensation for the Black community. You also in the movie give a direct dollar number, a dollar amount as to what it is that Black folks should be given because of what our ancestors have had to go through. How did you arrive at your number, and what is it that we can do to push that number in our local level so that this not just become a news headline, but becomes an opportunity for us to make a difference in our culture?
I use based on the many years of slavery, and also what I would feel like the interest accrued would be as a minimum. So we did like a minimum of like $6.4 trillion. Now there are studies that show that it should be from 6.2 million on up to 52 million. I know Bob Johnson came up with an amount of $14 trillion, which means every African American would get roughly around $320,000 as a cash payout. So I think it should be more than that. So when you look at the net worth of America is over $120 trillion. And America wouldn't have that network if it were not for the Black people working and creating that network for free. So it's stuff that it's what really belongs to us. A lot of white America is inherited. They've inherited wealth, land, money. We've inherited poverty. The only way to fix it is to give reparations to Black people in some sort of pay out, and it does not all have to be money. It can be land, it can be education, it can be other areas, but there needs to be something to say nothing. That's like somebody offending you or somebody, again, hitting your car, and they just get out and say, oh, it was an accident, but that doesn't fix the damage that was done to your car. You know, that doesn't fix your back being hurt or anything. So in order to fix it, you got to fix the damage done to my car. You got to pay my medical bills. And then that's saying, I'm sorry. Just saying you sorry, and things have changed. If we don't feel that way, well, but the average Black household net worth is less than $10,000. The average Black person has less than $400 available cash for any emergencies. Now I know Bishop Lee Offrick and Bishop McKissick, and and Dr. White, they don't they don't have that problem. They can just write them.
You don't know that.
but the average, they don't even have $400. So, but the average white person, their net worth is $180,000, and the average white person has over $10,000 in available cash. That's a big gap. That's a problem.
Bishop McKissick, we just had a moment where the government gave out to our community a stimulus check during the pandemic. I can imagine that the amount of money that would be distributed if they gave Black folks reparations, according to the numbers that Bob Johnson and Dr. Cooper are talking about, that we would have a whole nother sense of stimulation in our economic development of our communities. That's going to bring on a certain level of trauma. How does the Black church deal with talking about reparations? How do we deal with faith and justice? How do we deal with this tension between what they owe us and still sing Kumbaya? How do we deal with that, sir?
Well, I think first of all, we've got to stop singing Kumbaya because we just want to get along.
That's right.
I'm tired of us singing "We Shall Overcome."
Oh my gosh, I know.
And quite frankly, I'm tired of white folks' sympathy when they need to do something on our behalf. I think the church has to have the responsibility. If that were to take place, we've got to talk economic empowerment, economic development, and investing in us. You go to all of these major cities, nobody has a problem with Chinatown. Nobody has a problem with Little Italy. Nobody has a problem with a Jewish community named. But they always want to make us feel bad for trying to do something Black owned. At the end of the day, I think if we don't, as a people, train and educate our people in economic development, economic empowerment, and build our own financial nation, reparations will be in vain. Because let's just be honest, most that got stimulus checks spent it in a day instead of learning how to save it for a lifetime. And so we've got to take the responsibility as leaders to teach what it means to invest in our future and not just have aggrandizement for your present.
To your point, not only did they spend it in a day, they spent it in a way that did not cause stimulation in our communities.
Absolutely.
They went back and followed the same pattern as normal and spent it in their communities. Black dollar, it said the black dollar only revolves for 0.6 minutes in our community. And when we get a stimulus check, we don't seek for other Black businesses. We don't seek our brothers and sisters to build up. We take our money and put it elsewhere. Bishop Thomas, what can we do? What can be said across pulpits that will cause this story of justice on trial, that will cause the story of reparations to really hit us as a community? Because if we're not preparing our members to think economically for our own folks, getting a reparations check ain't gonna repair nothing for us.
Absolutely. We've got to, like Bishop was just saying, and I agree wholeheartedly with him, we've got to redirect those dollars and the minds of our people that we can have, that we can develop our own communities, and don't be so quick to run. And I know here in Jacksonville, we're a very unique city. I mean, unlike any I've ever been to. And we are spread out all over the place. And even on the side of town, Bishop McKissick downtown, where we pastor, there is no mall. There was no mall, and then they put a shopping center out, which was a step down from where everybody else goes. And so, for our people to spend as anybody else, they have to travel 20 to 30 minutes to get to a decent mall. That should not be when the international airport is on our side of town, where there is no 4-star hotels. Every time that a person comes into Jacksonville, you have to travel across town or either downtown to have a decent hotel. When they did the restructuring and the infrastructure here in Jacksonville, because anyone who usually came into Jacksonville would have to go through downtown 95 and go through the African American community. Well, the genius of our persons here built the Beltway, which is 295. Rudy know what I'm talking about, which means that when persons come into town, they go around the city to get to the places they want to be. I'm sick of this stuff as well. And the RNC is coming to our town, and I'm like, I want to tell. I am going to tell our people, listen. I know you got businesses. They're going to want your food trucks to come down because we don't have hotels. They're going to want us to patronize. I'm almost calling it. Let's do like Rosa Parks to them did in the 50s when they wanted to get her off the bus. Let's don't go down there. Sacrifice those few dollars because they're claiming $100 million is coming into the city, but it's not coming to our community. So let Rudy. Here was my take, man. I was going to tell our people we're going to use our parking lot to bring all the food trucks out there on that day. Right. Our community, go and patronize our people, and invest, save your money. You know what I mean? Start investing. Right. We have an investment group at our church. We have all these things going on to try to help people empower themselves, because that little bit of money ain't worth a darn. It ain't gonna do it. And then you go to that ain't really what I want to say. It ain't worth a darn. But I may have to show them why.
Put on your Baptist speech.
You're trying to say words that ain't in the 23rd Psalms, that Bishop. No, now.
Let me ask this though. Why do you think Chick-fil-A, the owner, has made racist statements? The owner of Home Depot supports Trump, racist statements. Even with the Chick-fil-A thing, when he said that black slavery was a blessing, why do you think blacks still support white businesses? They're like, I don't care. I like Chick-fil-A, so I don't care.
I'll give you my answer. I was blessed when I was at Florida State to take a class from Dr. Naeem Akbar. Dr. Akbar, breaking the chains of psychological slavery. That's exactly what it is. That at the end of the day, slavery worked mentally. There are many. Dr. Jeremiah Wright says, everybody my color ain't my kind.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And there are many who unfortunately are in psychological slavery, have plantation mentality, and do not understand what I feel is the responsibility of self and community empowerment. They don't see it. They have a more individual consciousness than communal consciousness, because at the end of the day, slavery worked on their head, even if they weren't in it in their bodies.
So how do we take this conversation and be forthright with the community in a way that we can educate them to be a part of the narrative? It's very common now for us to have a lot of think tanks around the country, for us in collected communal conversations to have the conversations, but it's not happening in the community at large. What can we do to take the conversation outside of localized fellowship and talk to the community at large. We don't print this stuff in the newspaper because folks in our community might not read it. We don't talk about this stuff in our churches because a lot of times members will say that we're being too political. How will we get together to have this conversation in a way that we can inspire change in the community?
Well, it goes back to dominating, like the entertainment, the mountain of entertainment. Lee Offred talked about that before. I think you talked about that's one of the mountains that the church has to really take over, and 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 just mainstream stuff. We need to have our own TV stations. We need our own mainstream quality newspapers. We need to have our own platforms. We have trillions of dollars that circulate in the Black community every year. We spend more money than white people do per capita. That we have the resources, but it's so much division within the Black community. It almost a crab mentality.
Now I'm gonna say something to provoke Dr. White, and I hope you don't jump all upside my head like you normally do when I say little jitterbug type comments. We have had, and I remember having a Black newspaper, but Black folks rather put their money in the white newspaper. We've had Black television. Somehow, the brother who was the owner of the Black television network found it more lucrative to sell that network over to Viacom, who already owned MTV and VH1. We've had Black cab companies. We've had Black bus companies. We have Black restaurants. And from me speaking to other Black restaurateurs, what I find out is that when we put our Black businesses in the Black community, Black folks don't support us. They would rather go somewhere else outside our community and build that up so that we don't feel like we're getting too big. We don't feel like we're getting too large. Dr. White, how do we address that? You're in the academic culture. You're there in the college campus. How do we address that as we're speaking to young millennials, we're speaking to individuals who are educating themselves? How do we address that so that we can build our community?
Well, first of all, most of the students, by the time they get to me, their worldview is already set. And we have to start at a much early age teaching self-determination and self-reliance. And that's something that we assume that we have built up this big wealth of knowledge that we can use to build a free community, and we haven't. We are nowhere near close to this as we think we are, purely because we haven't embraced the precious aspect of our history, which actually gives us the courage to own and to promote oneself. And so all of that comes from a knowledge of God. We have to understand that we are children of the Most High God, and that there are certain rules that we have to play by that the world doesn't have to play by. And so even in the midst of all of these things, we built independent resources before, but have we studied it enough in order for us to have courage to reproduce it again? And so you have models out there, but who's teaching the models? And so you're only as strong as your classroom is. And so if we don't look at education as being critical, the church that I pastored for 12 years was a school that they turned into a church. And it was 125 years old. But back then, we were more capable of owning land and putting our kids through college and building for ourselves a future. We were more capable then than we are now, because we have lost our moral compass, which gives us the courage to stand up as an individual. We're such group thinkers, we have to get permission from each other before we can do anything. And someone mentioned, I think Brother Pastor McKissick, someone mentioned the crab in the bucket mentality. That was applied to Black people by a Marcus Garvey's right-hand man. His name was Hubert Harrison, probably one of the best intellects that we've ever had. He was from Jamaica, but he noticed, and I think this is critical, he noticed that in Harlem, at the time the Universal Negro Improvement Association was built, was that black people were building for themselves an independent society. They were building businesses, they had newspapers, they had all of those things, but you had other black people that were discouraging them by saying that we should wait and everybody march off into this new utopia together rather than do it individually. And so built into us, I call it a nigger gene, built into us is in our DNA is a nigger gene that will tear down any progress that we try to make purely because we think that there's something obscene about us advancing as individuals, when in all actuality, it is going to take the individuals who can make it to begin to create segues for other people to be prosperous. I mean, we know how it is. Even with people who have succeeded, they're very funky toward each other. And they will do things to undermine each other here again because of that curse that operates in us. It's not a curse of the black skin, but it's a curse of ignorance. And we don't understand that white supremacy is unified in every front. It is unified in the church, it's unified at the bank, it's unified in education, it's unified in economics. So naturally, you're going to have all of those corporate people to have that type of attitude purely because, and then I'm going to stop, we approach them from a position of weakness and never from a position of power. And it is the knowledge of self, knowledge of God, knowledge of self, without Naeem Akbar talking about it others, knowledge of God and knowledge of self that allows you to approach other people from a position of power and equality and not servitude and inferiority.
Thank you for educating us about the nigga gene. Miss Tamika, you have been nodding your head and laughing and smiling the entire time. Tell us your perspectives of what's going on as it regards to the context for today.
I've been enjoying the entire conversation, and he is absolutely right. We have to know who we are in God, and we have to have that confidence. I am an educator, and I'm a licensed mental health therapist. And so I'm getting a lot of conversation. I think we are in a new day where I went to the protests and I saw, white people marching right next to me. And I talked to a lot of older civil rights people in Atlanta. And, they have varying perspectives on this whole thing. They're shocked, they're amazed. And, some of them sit down and talk to me and they say, hey, listen, segregation was one of the worst things that could have ever happened to it. Integration was one of the worst things that could have happened to us. Some of them have that perspective because they say that we lost our Black owned businesses. We lost our Black independence. We lost, our ability to believe in ourselves and create our own. And some of them carry the perspective that, we never wanted to be integrated. We wanted to keep our own, but we just wanted it to be equal.
Woo!
So, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. So, of course, integration did happen. And with integration, we've lost a sense of self. So, like Pastor Cooper was saying earlier, we have to get back to education. We have to get back to, as Dr. White said, building who we are. And I encourage our youth. I'm like, be the change you want to see. Go ahead and start your own business. Go ahead and write your own book. Go ahead and have your own grocery store. Like Bishop Leofford Thomas was talking about, my husband loves you, and he loves Rudolph McKenzie and Pastor Cooper. I mean, he talked about all of you guys, but that is that's what we have to do. And I coined this movie and along with the recent injustices, I coined it in what I call the 11 R's. And the 11 R's are that this movie and recent racial issues bring awareness to the relentless, that's the first R, racial acts, and call on us to recall and reminisce about life in this skin. Life in this skin. It has also revealed and forced others, to recognize ongoing injustice. And as a result, there will be what we're seeing, life-changing ramifications this time that will bring forth a reclaiming, so to speak, a recultivation of who we are again, and invite us to reconnect, because that's what's happening a lot through social media is a lot of reconnection. People are coming together like here, and we're discussing things and we're saying, okay, what can we do about it? Or, this something happened with the George Floyd situation. It was the top of the iceberg, and all of a sudden, like we've been talking about, it's been here forever. It's been here forever. But something clicked in America this time, and it has caused us to reconnect to our fellow brother and sister for what is now, what the name of your podcast, a historic revival.
Yeah.
So
Dr. White,
very powerful.
Dr. White, to tell you, I'm taking notes as we go along, and I'm going to have to go back and revisit them R's, because I got to get them R's right, because I got a few sermons I need to, I'm going to have me an R series worth of sermons. I want to play this last clip, and after that, we'll get back into it for a couple of moments. Again, today we are on talking about this new movie, Justice for Trial, on set to be released on July the 4th at all your major digital platforms. Here's another trailer from the movie for you to enjoy.
And as I sat here, I realized he is Trayvon Martin, and Trayvon Martin is him. And when I walk down the street in this hoodie, I am them. See, I stand next to other groups in support when injustices are implemented onto them by this society. But then when I walk side by side with my Black Lives Matter group, you're nowhere to be found. And white lady, if you want to fight for justice, do it across the board, not when it's convenient for you. Amen. We live in fear every day because the color of our skin.
Eric Gardner.
Timmy Rice.
Michael Brown Jr.
That's a good one. Freddie Gray. Yeah.
Sandra Bland.
Yeah. Fernando Castillo. Hey, and let's not forget, because we all witnessed it.
Who's that man I see underneath the hanging tree? He looks just like me. So tell me, am I really free? Could have been my mother crying for my brother. And everybody's praying for peace. But who's gonna protect us from the police? Keep these chains off me. 'Cause I don't wanna be another seed underneath the hanging tree. Pray for me. Lord, don't let me be another seed underneath the hanging tree. Brains on our bodies, color of purple fruit. Shoot. Power of the blood. Spit on the others that don't give a damn about you. Am I just living to die? That's the way they do
many inventions that Black folk gave to us. Mm-hmm. Not just to this country, but to the entire world.
Yeah, that's right.
Man. Oh my goodness. That's a serious situation. The thoughts that are going through my mind, just remembering and watching again those news clippings, remembering their names, remembering where I was and how I found out and who told me and how I felt. That level of trauma is big enough to spark off an atomic bomb. Ms. Edgecombe, what are we supposed to do from the perspective of a mental health professional? What are we supposed to do with the trauma that we are consistently reliving every time there's another hashtag? How do we deal with that as a community?
Well, we get support. That's first of all. We spend time with friends and family, knowing that you are not alone. You utilize your religious and spiritual practices for comfort in doing things like what we're doing now. We have healing talks online now. I have one tonight at 7, and that's, so that people can express their stories, so they can tell their stories, because we need to bring voice to the struggle. We need to let people know. And sometimes it helps to educate our white brothers and sisters too, what we're feeling. Some of them really don't know, because the eyes of privilege cannot always see struggle.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to make them aware of the struggle through voicing our stories. So we need to have times of healing and reconnection. I always tell people to get involved with a political activity or a cause, or online discussion, or a protest or something. Whatever your style is, get involved to make a difference. Use good self-care, because as you said, when these situations come up, it's like an atomic bomb. You don't know what to do with those feelings. So I do encourage people, take good care of yourself, eat well, walk, get those feelings out through exercise, physical activity, through expression, through talking to your religious leaders, to going to a therapist if you need to. I have more calls now than I probably ever have, because of the COVID. And in addition to now the racial injustices, is sparking so much conversation, and so many people are struggling, that I'm having to have forums on Facebook to get everybody, just to kind of listen, to provide care, to also, again, be the change you want to see. I tell my people, listen, it's time for you to rise up, and do something about it. I read last week in the session the poem by Maya Angelou, I Rise. And, in the last few lines of that was, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. And I heard somebody say earlier, we're forgetting the responsibility we have to the other, to our brother, to our sister. We're forgetting that sense of community, and not just saying, listen, she said, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. The slave couldn't do it, but you can. The slave couldn't sit in that seat and learn how to read, but you can. The slave couldn't, do a number of things, but we can. And what are we doing with that seat? What are we doing with it? Where, our young people are committing violence, they're doing things. And I'm like, hey guys, you have that opportunity. And remember your responsibility to all of those who came before you, who could not do it, who walked for you, who were hung for you, who died for you, who bled for you. So knowing that sense of responsibility that we now have. So all of those things help people with coping. It helps to cope, educating, letting our little Black girls and boys know, listen, like somebody said, we have to do it a lot earlier, not just in college. They've already had their mind made up by then. So I work with elementary kids, and I tell them, you are beautiful. Your Black is beautiful. You can be anything you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. Believe in yourself. And it has been proven by psychology psychologists have said that when those messages are given to our young people, that it does increase their self-esteem, that it does increase their self-efficacy. So all of those things are things that we can do. But I do encourage you, if you do feel like, you just can't make it and it's just too many thoughts, it is okay to talk to a therapist. And that's another thing that in the Black community is like a stigma. A lot of us don't want to talk to therapists because that means something is wrong, but it's okay. It's just literally having a conversation with someone who might have a little bit more tools in their toolbox in that particular area, and they can help you see things from a different perspective. So it's really okay, So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Cooper.
Good. That's good
So
stuff.
you have pulled you did it today, Doc. You got an A-list cast of individuals who are definitely versed in the concepts around this movie. We are Edgar Maverick. We are Emmett Till. We are Harriet Tubman. We carry their legacies and their lineage, and it's our responsibility, as Ms. Edgar Combs said, to do something. What do you want us to do to support this movie?
Well, I want people to pre-order it before July the 4th. So the best way to do that is to log on to Justice on Trial, the movie. Justice on Trial, the movie. Scroll down. I know Dr. White is doing it right now. I know Dr. White is purchasing his pre-download, right?
But he got to purchase his pre-down code with my code. Use my code, Doc. Use NSP AME.
It go down to stream movie. Click on that, and it's self-explanatory. It's $14.95. It's worth every penny. Once July 4th hits, the link will come live, and it'll be available for 48 hours. And
so if you're watching, if you're watching, immediately after this, I want you to go to the New St. Paul Tampa Facebook page, Instagram page. I want you to look at the flyer. The flyer is going to have instructions on how you can get involved and download the movie. And I want you to use NSP AME as your download code, and the Lord will bless you real good.
That's right. That's right. So you've heard it from the Archbishop himself. You can go now to the website and purchase your pay-per-view, and let's blow this thing out of the water on July the 4th, and then we're going to continue to create content of this nature that will continue to educate by way of TV series, other movies. We're going to keep on doing it, and we're going to keep on putting Black history out there, Black excellence out there, and a change is going to come. I feel it. I feel the synergy in the atmosphere. I feel it. And I want to thank all of the guests as well. Thank you, Pastor RJ, for putting it on. I'm so proud of Sister Tamika Edgecombe. I remember back in her Bethune-Cookman days. And, don't be shaking your head, Dr. White. You don't bother Bethune-Cookman. That's our little sister.
She the best thing that ever happened to Bethune-Cookman. Trust me, best thing.
See, Dr. White, that's that black on black crime we be talking about, just like that.
But them FAMU people, them Florida people have been ganging up on me. So now I got somebody back.
Oh my goodness. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's been a blessing. Join me tonight at 7:00. We got another session tonight. Says, when do we say justice? Got attorney Norman Harris, Dr. Antipas Harris. He's the dean and president of the Jake's Divinity School, and another attorney, Derek Dowell. We're going to get together and talk about when do we as a community say justice. We're going to keep this conversation pushing. We're going to apply pressure, and I want you as a community to do what you can in your local environment to change the culture for our next generation. Thank you all again for watching the Hour of Power. We'll see you all next time.
Peace out.